Does size matter? For some, size does matter. For those people, the Foton Tunland V7's impressive size might be of interest. But does it offer more than just that? Is bigger actually better? And most importantly, is it worth your money? Let's find out. The Foton Tunland is the biggest pickup that you can buy for the price. It's about 11 inches longer than the Isuzu Dmax. Now, it's one thing knowing that number, it's another thing seeing the vehicle in person. It just looks so much more massive in the sheet metal. So the Tunland comes in two configurations, the V9 and the V7. The V9 is a bit more expensive and has a few more features. The V7 is a bit more affordable and is missing some of the features of the V9. Now the V9 and the V7 are very similar. They have similar body panels. Their interiors are almost identical. They look similar in almost every angle except at the front. At the front, they look like completely different vehicles. The V9 has a more rounded looking front fascia, which is more reminiscent of the Dodge Ram, while the V7 has this boxier looking front fascia, which is more reminiscent of the Ford F-150. The individual elements are also different. The headlights are different. The V7 gets these huge vertical LED headlamps with a cornering function. What we have here are actually cornering lamps. So when you're turning into a curve, these illuminate your path at an angle, so you can see further into the distance. Now these will definitely come in handy when you're driving on twisty mountain roads at night. Look what happens when I turn the wheel to the right. It illuminates that path. You have this huge grille at the center, you have plenty of chrome bits, and you have the Foton logo at the top. Now it's already a very big pickup, but the front fascia makes it look even more massive. From the top of the hood all the way to the bottom lip, that's almost a meter in distance. So it's a very big pickup, but the face somehow looks disproportionately big for the body. By the way, if you want to take this thing off-road, you might want to remove this front lip over here to improve your approach angle. Now, since it's the lower model, expect a couple of compromises here. Like the mirrors are power adjustable, but they're manual folding. You don't get roof rails up here. You get plastic step boards over here. On the V9, these are made of metal. The V7 does not come with the plastic fender flares of the V9. You get these faux air vents over here. Both the V9 and the V7 come with 18-inch alloys finished in gloss black, but only the 4x4 variants come with these all-terrain tires. So these are 265/70 GT tires. They're bigger than the stock tires of most mid-size pickups. In terms of diameter, they're just a bit smaller than the tires of the Ranger Raptor, although the 285 tires of the Ranger Raptor are definitely much wider. You get disc brakes on all four corners. Both the V7 and the V9 come with double wishbones at the front, but at the back, the V7 and the V9 come with very different suspension systems. The V9 comes with a coil spring rear suspension, which is softer and offers better ride quality, while the V7 comes with a leaf spring rear suspension, which is stiffer and offers better payload capacity. Okay, so here's the front suspension of the Tunland V7. The lower control arm seems to be quite beefy, and it seems to be made of steel. It does appear to have a stopper that's quite close to the lower control arm. The rear suspension of the V7 is quite simple. It's a regular leaf spring setup. The V9, aside from having coil springs, also has a few more components in its rear suspension. It has additional trailing arms and a track bar, which should limit side-to-side movement of the axle and improve handling. Just to be clear, the V7 does not come with a V7 engine, and the V9 does not come with a V9 engine. It comes with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel Alcan engine, the same engine as the Foton Thunder. But because it's a mild hybrid, this has a bit more torque. So this has 161 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. That's about 60 more Newton meters than the Foton Thunder. While Foton is a Chinese brand, the components of the Tunland are a multinational effort. Its variable geometry turbocharger is by BorgWarner, an American brand. The 8-speed transmission is by ZF, a German brand trusted by manufacturers such as BMW. Its 48-volt mild hybrid system is by Bosch, which is also a very well-known German brand. At the back, both the Tunland V9 and V7 come with halogen tail lamps. You got this body-colored rear bumper over here with rear parking sensors. That tow hitch over there is not stock, it's an aftermarket accessory. Both the Tunland V9 and V7 come with a dampened liftgate. So as you can see, I can do this, which is something that you can't do on most pickups. Even on some pickups that have an assisted liftgate, you'll still have to guide it down. But this one, you can actually let it go without issue. Both the V9 and the V7 come with dampened liftgates, but only the V9 comes with a retractable tailgate stepboard. Unsurprisingly, the biggest pickup in this price bracket also has the biggest bed. Definitely it has more than enough space to fit our sponsor for today. Introducing the AtoSport Mobility Scooter. The world's most innovative mobility scooter. It folds into a small suitcase size and it has wheels so you can move it around like a trolley. It separates into two parts. It has leather seats and grips, an illuminated LCD dashboard, enhanced lighting for extra visibility. You can install optional armrests. It's perfect for seniors as it's easy to lift and unfolds in seconds. It has a maximum speed of 10 kph, shock absorbing flat free tires, high ground clearance, advanced braking system, be free to travel anywhere, land, sea or air. It has 20 kilometers of continuous driving range. Engineered with flair, designed with passion for performance. Be active, be free, be yourself. AtoSport, moving life. Okay, so we're now inside the Foton Tunland V7. Now the interiors of the V7 and the V9 are very similar. I've seen two color options. There's this dark chocolate brown and there's also a lighter, almost orange color. Now there's just no argument about it. This interior is vastly more luxurious than any pickup in this price bracket. You have soft touch materials everywhere. This part of the dashboard is leather wrapped. This is soft touch right here. This is leather wrapped. This is leather wrapped. This is leather wrapped over here. You have a leather wrapped armrest. You have leather wrapped seats. The driver's seat is power adjustable. You have a leather wrapped steering wheel. You have plenty of aluminum looking accents here, here, also here. You have ambient lighting. It's just a very expensive looking interior, especially if you compare it to other diesel pickups in this price bracket, some of which are bordering on agricultural. Not only is it luxurious, it's also very spacious, a lot more spacious than any pickup in this price bracket. I have plenty of room here for my legs and my knees. I can put my bags here and I'll still have plenty of room for my feet. You have this very wide center console over here. You have A lot of separation between the driver and the passenger. Headroom is also pretty decent. I have about 3.5 to 4 inches. You also get this huge 14-inch screen. Now for comparison, the next biggest screen is on the Ranger Raptor and the Ranger Wildtrak, and that one is 12 inches. Now this is the lower end model, and on the V7 you don't get a wireless phone charger. You also don't get a rear differential lock on the V7. But like the V9, you get plenty of drive modes here. You have the selector knob over here for selecting your different drive modes. You have mud, you have sandy, you have snow, you have motion pattern, you have eco, and their standard mode. And you have another knob here to the right, which is your 4x4 selector knob. You have 2 high, you have 4 high, and you have 4 low. And there's also an automatic mode which automatically selects the proper drive mode for your driving conditions. The instrument cluster is mostly analog. You have an analog speedometer, an analog tachometer, and a multifunction screen at the center. As for the storage, you have a decently sized glove box. It's also dampened. You have a lot of storage underneath the center armrest. You have 2 cup holders over here. Now you don't have a wireless charger, but you have a place here to put your phone. You also have plenty of storage underneath the center console, and you have your USB ports down there, and also you have a 112-volt outlet. It's just at a different level compared to other pickups in this price bracket, and considering that this is the lower end model, that's a pretty impressive feat. Okay, so this right here is the most spacious second row of any pickup in this price bracket. As expected, legroom is a lot. I have about 6 inches or more. Headroom is also pretty decent. That's about 2 inches. But the width of the vehicle is where it really stands out. You can fit 3 people of my size here comfortably. Also, there is no center tunnel, so the center passenger should feel just as comfortable as the other 2. Yeah, it's a very luxurious looking interior for a pickup. And because it's so luxurious, the stuff that are missing stand out quite a bit more than on other pickups. Like, because it looks so nice, you would expect a center armrest, but it doesn't have one. At least the V7 doesn't. But you do have 2 air con vents here and 2 USB ports. You also have map pockets on both front seats. And the materials here are just as nice as the front. This is leather wrapped over here. This is leather wrapped. You have grab handles over here, which would definitely come in handy for shorter people when they're getting in the car. You also have grab handles up here. Okay, so I've been driving the car for almost a week now. I've done 143.7 kilometers. That's about almost 5 hours of driving. And still the fuel gauge has not moved. Okay, so I've been driving the car for about a week now, and finally the fuel gauge has moved by just a little bit. It has moved after 232.6 kilometers. So that's partly because the fuel consumption of the car is pretty decent, and mostly because it has a huge fuel tank. The Foton Tunland comes with a 79-liter fuel tank, and that combined with the Tunland's fuel economy means that that fuel gauge is going to move very, very slowly. So far I'm averaging about 8.6 liters per 100 kilometers in the city and about 6.6 on the highway. In total, I averaged about 12.6, but that includes idling time when I'm shooting. So the Tunland comes with a mild hybrid system. The electric motor of the Tunland actually assists the ICE engine in turning the wheels. So even though the numbers are quite low, it actually doesn't feel underpowered. There's plenty of torque down low, and it's immediate. You don't have to wait for it to spool. You don't have to wait for the turbos to spool. You just feel the torque right away. There is no way to switch between EV and HEV modes. So it says here that we have 25% charge on the battery. Okay, so as you can see here, the engine turned off by itself. The vehicle has a start-stop function. Now that helps improve your fuel economy in stop-and-go traffic, but I would prefer to have that off because it sometimes turns off in awkward times. Like when you're making a U-turn, it suddenly turns off. So I would prefer to have that off, especially when I'm not driving on a straight road. Now, one important difference between the V7 and the V9 is that The V7 comes with a hydraulic power steering system, so this is a bit heavier than the steering of the V9, which has an electronic power steering system. When you're moving though, you can barely feel the heft of the steering wheel. It's only when you're stopped that you feel it. So it is heavier than the steering of the Triton Athlete and the Ranger, but not really that much heavier compared to other diesel pickups which also have hydraulic steering systems. This is one situation where you don't want the engine to automatically turn off. Now on other vehicles with a start-stop function, when you turn the wheel, it automatically turns the engine on. The only way that the engine will turn on again is if you step on the gas. It will not automatically turn on if you turn the wheel. Now the Foton Tunland, it's one of the most refined pickups that you can buy for the price. Noise insulation is very good. You can barely hear diesel clatter inside the cabin. The transmission shifts are very smooth. It's just overall a vastly more refined driving experience compared to other diesel pickups, especially the older ones like the Hilux, the Dmax, and the Navara. Now in terms of ride quality, I would say that it's one of the better ones in the segment, especially here at the front. It's definitely better than the Hilux, the Dmax. Now at the back, it's a slightly different story. It's slightly more bouncy at the back. But here at the front, because the wheelbase is so long and the rear wheels are so far behind me, I can barely tell what's happening back there. As far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty comfortable driving experience. Surprisingly, tire noise is very minimal considering that we have all-terrains. And the transmission is doing a good job of keeping the RPMs low. We're doing about 1,500 RPM at 100 kph. Yeah, at these speeds, there is very little engine noise coming into the cabin. The Foton Tunland is not really a hardcore off-road pickup, but we did try to take both the V7 and the V9 off-road, and hardcore the trail was. The drivetrain of the V7 and V9 are similar. The most important difference when it comes to off-roading would be the rear differential lock, which the V9 has and the V7 doesn't. For this particular trail, having a diff lock was not necessary, but it made doing donuts so much more satisfying on the V9. The all-terrain tires did a pretty good job on deep sand, as we never got stuck. The traction control tends to cut power when it detects wheel spin, so it helps that there's a dedicated traction control off button. Both the Tunland V9 and V7 did pretty well, although like I said earlier in the video, if you plan to drive on terrains like this on the regular, it would help to remove the front lip because that's likely to snag on rocks. A front suspension lift would also help, as it could use a bit more ground clearance and suspension travel. Stiffer damping would also help a bit. But overall, if you don't plan to go crazy on sand or mud, it's going to be good enough for light to intermediate off-roading. The Foton Tunland sells for 1,888,000 pesos. Now, it's not a review if we don't talk about the pros and cons of a car. You can view the Tunland from different vantage points, and the pros and cons would change depending on which one that is. It sits in two different segments depending on whether you judge it by size or by price. In terms of price, it's priced just slightly lower than top-spec mid-size pickups. In terms of size, it's closer to full-size pickups. If you judge it from the vantage point of someone who's looking for a full-size truck, it is vastly more affordable than the competition. And because of that, whatever it's missing can be easily forgiven. For the price of one Dodge Ram, you can buy two of these and have spare change for a Ranger XLT. If you're judging it from the vantage point of someone who has a budget of 1.8+ million pesos, but not necessarily looking for a full-size truck, just any pickup in general, it still holds up pretty well. It is the most premium feeling truck at the price. The glaring thing that's missing is a 360 camera, which a lot of its competitors in the same price bracket have. It also lacks autonomous driving features, but at below 1.9 million pesos, most pickups don't come with that feature anyway, so that's not a point against it. Now, I was able to live without a 360 camera. If you think you can too, the Tunland is a package that is hard to beat. You get the best cabin space, the best cargo space, the most premium interior, and you get perks such as coding exemption. The Tunland V7's biggest competitor might be its close cousin, the V9. For just 100,000 pesos more, you get more stuff including a locking rear differential, lighter steering, a better ride, and more interior amenities. For so long, the pickup segment was a strictly Japanese and American affair. The Tunland is the first Chinese pickup that challenges the top spec models and in some ways actually beats them.